Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:01. We all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to your flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we get a motion to approve tonight's agenda for February 12th. Motion to approve the agenda. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, can I have a second motion to approve the minutes from January 22nd?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, first we'll start with school committee chairperson comments. Thank you, Dr. Cullen, for canceling school already for tomorrow. Start there. I think I'll just make a second comment real quick. Just a thank you to Carrie and all of our student counselors, or guidance counselors, for recognizing National Guidance Counselor Week last week. Thank you for our students' help. Thank you. And with that, we can move to community comments. Anything online? Okay, great. All right, I think next up we have our students.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, so last week we were able to participate in another Inspired Learning Day, where students were able to indulge in many different outside passions like cooking, sports, leadership, education, fashion, and so many more to choose from. Me and along with a handful of other seniors were fortunate enough to lead a couple sessions and bring our passions to schools and to our school and hope to instill fun within our community and maybe spread some awareness. Inspired Learning Days have been a huge part of our district for the last couple of years now, and our sessions have grown dramatically, including guest speakers, AM sessions, PM sessions, and so many more.
Thank you.
Before that, we had the Mendon-Upton showcase on January 31st, where we represent all its activities and clubs to the middle school students and their families. So they toured Mendon-Upton and they got a good look of what learning at Mendon-Upton would be like. A slight nudge to go to Mendon-Upton. And recently, the Mendon-Upton juniors have started thinking about their civics projects. And where these projects being developed with and solve issues in these students' community. And I'll be hearing more about them as students start reaching out for planning and budgeting.
Awesome. Thank you both very much. All right. I think we can turn over to Dr. Cullen for superintendent and administrative updates.
We actually have students from the Nipmuc Drama Guild who are here. So we'll start by inviting them up to speak about the amazing weekend's performance. And I just told them that I was laughing and smiling from the first moment of that. It was just incredible. So I'll hand it over to them to give us some highlights.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel Delvenides. I am the president of the Nipmuc Drama Guild on the board, and I've been participating in drama since middle school.
I'm Owen Thompson. I'm an actor in the Drama Guild, and I've been participating in drama since 6th grade at Misco.
We had an order. This guy. Hi, I'm Sabrina Casano. I've been participating in drama since 5th grade as well, and I'm an actor in the guild, and I also got to be choreographer of the last show.
Hi, I'm Hannah Lawrence. I'm the stage manager. I've been part of stage crew for the past 3 years here at Nipmuc, and I was an actor for 4 years at this.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm the producer in the Drama Guild, and I'm an actor, and I've been involved since my freshman year.
So one way that drama has really impacted my life personally is it's really developed my leadership skills, not only as like an actor in the guild, but also as a student and just a peer to all of my fellow members. And I've also had the opportunity to co-assist direct the fall play and the musical that we just did, which was a really fun experience.
I'd say drama's really helped with my public speaking skills and confidence, and that's helped me in a lot of other areas like student office elections and things like that. And yeah.
So my favorite part about drama, especially with this last play, is that there's so many opportunities for different people with different interests to get involved. Like, especially this show, it had so much tech work and so much for stage crew to do. And then also I got the chance to choreograph, and I really appreciate being able to watch other people take things and make them their own. And it's kind of inspiring in that way.
What I really like about drama is the group, like the community we formed as our own. Coming into school, it's really scary, and especially high school, especially for freshmen, it's really scary. And coming into drama, what I've experienced this year at least is you find people who can take you under your wing and just guide you and help you come out of your shell. I wasn't in drama my freshman year, I wish I was, but going in sophomore year really helped me learn more about myself, being confident. Well, it made me take responsibility for a lot of my own like actions and own up to a lot of things. I learned how to like make an agenda because I had so many things to do. So yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of going to say what Hannah already said is that the people really make drama important for me. I know, like, as I've been performing my entire life, and coming into theater in high school has really impacted me in a lot of ways. Made me feel more confident about myself, my acting, my performing, my singing, and getting to know all these people, all these great seniors, fellow seniors, and work with all these amazing people in drama in so many different ways has been amazing for me.
I'd like to add on. Sorry. I was gonna say, I think it's also a great way to like connect grades as well, because especially in middle school, I didn't know any of the freshmen. Like I saw their face in drama, but it wasn't as close knit. Whereas in high school, I really got to get close to the underclassmen, and not even like I learned from them, and I hope they learned things from me as well. But we just grew together and yeah, had fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Can I chime in for 1 second? I just want to thank all of you and thank the Guild in general. Ms. Simmons is sitting over there. Ms. Simmons is our musical director, and Mr. Peer is the new drama director as well. But I consider this like your home away from home. I don't know if anyone understands the hours that these students put in kind of over the course of the year. It's the fall production, it's the spring production, it's the one acts. And Mr. Clements and I are often here late, and it's your voices that we hear that continue to bring this to life. But getting to watch you guys on stage is just incredible. I think until you're able to see it and see what you guys have dedicated yourself to beyond the classroom, and these hours are spending beyond there, it's just truly impressive. So it is a community amongst itself, and we're so thankful that you have built such a community here at Mendon. So thank you, and thank you to Ms. Simmons for all her hours and dedication to it. I know Mr. Beard's not here, but I feel similar thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, now you're up. So I'm sorry.
No, good. Got to give my little comments about how awesome it was. I'll stop talking about it. All right, so what I'd like to do, if it's okay, Rena, if you mind sitting next to me. Here we have Rena Manson, who is an ELA teacher extraordinaire and leader. And I think on every committee that we ever have, she's the first volunteer. But that's only part of the reason why she's sitting up here. She was recognized from DESE right at the beginning of the school year, and we're a little late in recognizing here at school committee. I've been kind of rotating through the different recognitions, but at the beginning of the school year, we received a notification that she received a recognition from the Office of Educator Effectiveness from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as a distinguished educator recognition. And the letter that indicated that a particular note in the recommendation was her student and application of current educational research and pedagogy. What I can say just at, well, I'm going to finish what it said. So she's a teacher leader who uplifts students and colleagues to be the best that they can be. Rena is always someone that we can rely on for everything. Like if we're talking about, okay, let's, oh, I'm glad you stayed, Lauren, because Lauren volunteered in her classroom. It's like this amazing project and leading work. So she partners with students. So I'm glad you stayed. Thanks for that. And Marion was here, who was part of the recommendation. But when you go in the classroom, if we're working on new standards that came out years ago when I was assistant superintendent and we're working on close reading, who's really working on close reading that next day after the standards come out? It's Rena in her classroom. If we're looking at okay, how can we improve writing, and we're trying to pilot some 6 traits in writing and work through who just bought the book. Rena has the book. If we're have a committee for probably embarrassed. If we have a committee and we're talking about how we can work on the Misco Hill Media Center and can we get some teachers, Rena is going to be the next person we're talking to. If we're looking at how we can upgrade some curriculum materials, Rena's the next person. School council, Rena. It's really PD, it's Rena. She really, beyond what she does for students every day, she's always trying to get better, but she makes all of us better every day. And so we're really grateful for your leadership and what you do in the classroom. So we are going to have you come on up and meet Eric up here. We'll do the official picture. Right over here. And now's a good time to clap.
Congratulations.
If you want to say.
Thank you so much. It's great for the acknowledgement. And I'm one of those lucky adults who gets to come to work every day and do something that I thoroughly enjoy. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Have to sometimes work on the order and the agenda. Next up, I get to give a little bit of a progress report on my goals, which is a good thing, but it's always hard to follow the students and teacher recognitions. Do you have that? So every year, if you want to go to the next slide, please. We go through this continuous improvement cycle where with educator, we try to model through the educator evaluation process that we have with all of our educators, also with our administrators, also with my evaluation here with the superintendent evaluation subcommittee. And we just met recently. And if you look at the arrow where I added it into the cycle, we've been implementing the plan that I brought forward and goals and ideas at the beginning of the school year, and we're at that formative assessment point in the mid-year where I give a few updates on our progress. Hopefully along the way, we do try to give you updates because we are in line with our district goals. Updates in all of the meetings, hopefully are in line in a lot of days, but I'll try to give you a couple of updates where we're at, and then right towards the end of the school year, when we met with the subcommittee, we identified the dates that the final evaluations would be. The next slide. And I always like to point this out because we talk a lot about goals, but we're all connected to those goals. We have the strategic plan at the top. We have any of the school committee work that we might be working on. And then you have each of the schools has school improvement goals that are aligned to our strategic plan. And also the principal goals when I meet with them and I have my mid-year check-ins with them right after break. And we see the same thing you're doing right now. What's the progress? How we're working on the goals in alignment personally for them. And also district leadership team goals. We have our action plans. And then you will see a lot of alignment with educator goals. Now educators get to choose in most cases their own goals, but we also provide different models for them. And we're always trying to have as many people rowing in the same direction to have progress, the continuous improvement of our district. So as I go through the main goals that I have, hopefully it'll just be a nice little refresher for you of some of the district work that I talked about at the last meeting. Similar to the educators, we have a professional practice goal, student goal, and then what I do is I pull a couple of our district goals and talk specifically about some of the work that I'm working on in relationship to it. So with the professional practice goal, I've had the last 3 years some element of communication as a big part of my goal as a superintendent. And so I'll give a few highlights of where I'm at with that. So go to the next slide. I was asked, I know it's a lot of writing, so I hope you do have it. If that's too small up there, I tried to put them all on one screen. But the committee asked that I try to provide this type of template where I can show the green, the yellow, the red kind of on progress. And what I did is I had the list of the key actions that I wrote in the plan, and then the benchmarks. There weren't necessarily a benchmark directly aligned to every single action. But you can see some of them, and there's additional work that we've done. A couple of highlights I want to talk about. I'm just finishing up participating in the Leading Now cohort, which is about crisis and communications. And I would say it's probably one of the best professional development that I've participated in a while. And I've been really fortunate. We did a lot of consultancies on different issues that are coming up with the fact that it was a national cohort. And we also have the largest contingent is from Massachusetts. Massachusetts is partnering with Leading Now. So a lot of the PD that's taking place is related to Leading Now. And we do book studies. We have experts each month that come in and present to us. We only had a 2-day that we did some PD in person, but most of it's been online. Some of the things that might be a little bit similar to what I talked about last year. I continue to meet with our public relations representative, also with some press releases. Every time we have something great happening at one of the school community meetings, then they'll follow up, they'll start a press release and give them feedback and additional information, try to push that out. And we've had about 15 press releases so far this year. So we're on track to meet my goal of being beyond what we had last year, which was our first year. I'm probably most proud of some of the work that we've done in working with Apogee Rep with the website improvements. I know I went through a long list and I kind of bring it up, but what we've done this year, when you go to the main page, and I know I mentioned this one of the times, but definitely go check it out. We changed the header for a lot of our pages so they're clearer. So a lot of it's just kind of visual, but our live feed, we were able to have in the live feed images, which was something that I've been doing before. And so they lately, unfortunately, every image is just a snow there display. But hopefully we'll have more interesting images like in there. We've also been able to make it so you could download school calendars. I noticed you couldn't download school calendars into your feed, like an iCal feed. So I gave them feedback on that. And we added in, which I mentioned earlier this year, quick links that directly take you to some of the pages. And we've upgraded some of our systems. We will see a next stage that we're doing is when we get little mini updates that come out to you from the district, we're going to have a format, almost newsletter-ish, not in my district some more that I do, but it'll be more visually appealing. So we're working on that right now. So I'm proud of like when I went through to think of all the work that we've done, we've actually made a lot of changes this year, building off of what we did last year. The only thing on the list, which is in the yellow, is the create new video content. I had this big grand vision. I create lots of videos and I do videos in my memos or my district newsletters. And I did meet with some students, had some ideas. I did make a little bit of progress with Instagram. I created a TikTok account. Now I'm just getting spammed on it, but I haven't created any videos to push out with students. So that's like, you know, maybe superintendent walking the streets of Nipmuc and we do some babies. I don't know. I have these images, but I haven't done that. Yeah, I like dancing. Yeah, so that we'll see if I can make any progress on that. But the other thing too is e-collections of forms in PowerSchool. Liz Black, we've been working, she's been working with buildings where we're hoping we can transition to using PowerSchool for some forms. So we're making a lot of progress, and I think we're on track for most of the action steps for this. Any question on that before I go on? So the next goal is student learning. In our district action goals, we have blocks related directly to student learning. And what I decided to focus on for my student learning goals in support of deeper and authentic learning, which is why I highlighted that there. So if you go to the next one. More of this is, it's less concrete for saying, yep, we're done. We've done that because, of course, in student learning and some of these, it is a year-long endeavor, and in many cases, it probably can continue into the next years with some of the work that we've done. You've heard a lot about the PBL units this year. We had the middle school come forward and present that, and we updated the calendars, and I shared that with you in the past as well. One thing I'm really proud of the work that Cheryl's done, and I think I may have mentioned this at the last district planning meeting, but work that Cheryl's done and also Colleen, but with instructional partners, they really put together a way to look at deeper and novel experiences and start with walkthroughs. And something that I've been doing with the leadership team directly is every other meeting that we meet in schools and we do learning walks, we've been focusing on the depth of knowledge to try to get at what depth of knowledge and what's the critical tests that our students are putting together or that our teachers are designing in the classroom. And so we've had some good conversations about that. We're working towards that common definition around deeper learning and authentic learning. Our goal really is, by the end of this year and heading into next year, it's something that kind of hopefully roll off into this that if I asked both of you, you'd say, yeah, this is what it is. And this is, I know it when I see it, and it'll start to be language that we use teachers. Hopefully, something we have a better understanding of.
Getting that socialized.
I would say we're still working on it. So like when we, like the framework that Cheryl's been working on, we're looking at it and defining it and be back to it, whether we're even at the high school where they've been leveling up on authenticity, and it's been work that departments have been going through. We're just kind of mid-year in that process, but we're making good progress. Yeah, it means it's in progress.
I was wondering what the challenges are.
Yeah, some of it is just, it's gonna take the whole year, or sometimes even leading through. I mean, as a good example, just to give you, just to understand the chart, like lead principles and weekly, district walkthroughs, in a way I could just say green, because every other week or so, I'm gonna be meeting or walkthrough alternate, but it is ongoing throughout the rest of the year. So. All right. Let me see more questions on that. Oh, how much I've talked about crisis planning, I gave a few updates last time, but I'll just give you a reminder of some of the work we've done. So we've been working on crisis protocols in collaboration with our safety officials. So if you go to the next slide, please, Chris. Thank you. I barely could fit all the steps in there. When I was putting this together at the beginning of the school year, I had many steps to add in, key actions to add in, because it's been something we started last year and I've been adding to this year. A lot of concrete steps as well, many of which we've done. I had a draft last year of threat assessment protocols, not communicated out, to have like a dashboard for our leaders, and that's one of them that we shared out and starting to start adding use this year. We are trying, this is an ongoing process to have similar timelines for protocols across all of the schools. As you know, we work with 2 different police departments and fire departments, and they work really well together, but sometimes we might not 100% be matched up. But we're trying to have, we want to have continuity in the sense that if you're a parent, you're hearing similar information. We've made some improvements this year. At the end of the year, we have to present a management emergency response plan to DESE. It's a 3-year requirement, and Leslie McGinnis is leading that review. We have a current one in place, but we just have to revise it every 3 years. So that's yellow. It's not going to be due to the year. I meet quarterly with at least with the district school resource officers, and we have different topics that come up. Some of the topics that I'm listing here in fall. So, for example, we worked on looking at the Homeland Security assessment earlier on in the fall to talk about long range needs and planning. We attended swatting incident protocols and developed, and I shared out swatting response procedures and monitoring procedures and leadership assistance. Other things that we always are trying to do, I was talking to fire representative from the fire department from Mendon today on a safe grant that he has with some education he's going to do at the middle school. And I was talking to him about like, hey, do you know any more grants? We're trying to, we have some needs, key access card assistance, capital planning. And anytime we have the opportunity to apply for grant, we do so. The beginning of the year, I worked with Safe Routes to School for assessing like routes to school. I need to kind of circle back with them. I had a big district meeting with them to start right in September, August, September, and then they were supposed to talk to the school, so I need to follow. I don't know if you have any questions with this. We all were trained in CPR. Some of us did the Narcan training. So we're making some good progress. Any questions on crisis plans? I'm feeling pretty good. We do have a draft protocol district. It's like 140 pages. It's linked in, I think, too. And that's what we now have to work on is going through that language and seeing like what's we might want to change and update before it's up. All right, and last one. So capital planning. Hopefully you've heard a little bit about that. When of the steps that we put in there, we have succeeded. I made some pretty concrete steps in our process, and so we formed the committee. We reviewed the facility assessments. MUCP presented to us at the capital planning and also at school committee at the last meeting. We reviewed the safety security assessments that was referenced. We got information from technology, and I want to follow up with a tech presentation tonight as well. Budget. We sought feedback from stakeholders. I sent that out a couple times. Didn't receive a ton, but it still was good feedback. And also NDCP had a more specific field of questions that they sent out as well that shared with us. I think Jay and I have attended just about every meeting that exists for MSPA projects. And I created the capital planning website, which I think keep it up to date with information as well. We have draft capital planning document, but we still have more meetings to go. So I feel like we're making really good progress in a short amount of time on this. Pretty complex and connected to the budget, but I feel like we're at least moving in the right direction. And if you look 6 months ago, we didn't have any of this, and so we've made a lot of progress. So I'm happy with that. And then after we'll bring forward a document for a vote for a statement of interest, which is something that this work. They don't need to go on the next agenda to get to it, and that's related to several meetings. Yeah. So that's coming out.
Yes, so this is, if you've got more of a 5-year or 10-year plan on capital planning, that's I've never seen. So it's congratulations on that. It's a lot of really good organization. Not only for the school, but for the community. No one has any.
Yeah, and I think that's once we get it to be a little bit more refined, then that's when we'll start with the community and also work with the three towns. I mean, that was really good feedback that the towns also have capital plans as well. And if we're going to need funding for that in whatever stage that we're asking for various funding, that partnering to them as much as we can.
So just as a side note, I've gotten a couple of offers to present on the from admins capital projects groups. So like senior center development. The guy who leads that wants to do something. Introduce it to us, show us how we utilize it for efforts. So. Thank you.
Up next, we have
Jay Friday is going to give us a little update on the state budget. That's Mr. Jay.
So we'll start off on a positive note, the snow and ice counts are still. I know that. We'll let you know on Thursday if there's any changes. All right, so state budget, we talked about this a little bit at budget subcommittee. I'm going to do a quick review tonight of that. As you know, state aid came out about 3 weeks ago now. And we're getting a whopping reduction of 150,000 in state aid, which is really nice of them. That's the governor's budget, yes. So it will change as it goes through the process. I mean, the House will come out probably mid to late April, the Senate late May, conference committee at some point in May or June, the governor may approve the budget by July 1, so it's doubtful. So I do hope that some of those numbers will go up, especially the transportation number. Reimbursing at 80% right now, and they didn't increase the amount of money that they had to reimburse. So that's the reduction that you see. So that doesn't help us that we're going to lose 150,000 in aid right off the start. Just to make sure everybody understands how local aid is calculated, to do that, we subtract from that the total budget. From the total budget, we take out everything that's predetermined. That means any state aid, any district revenue we put in, minimum contribution. So that's the part that is split by the enrollment percentage. The rest, things like minimum contribution, do not get split by enrollment. They're based on a lot of other factors. Based on all of that, the town of Upton gave us a target number of 14,200,277, and based on that, Mendon's corresponding number would be 11,139,594. They represent pretty substantial increases in both towns. Upton has indicated they could handle $479,000 increase. We're going to met with Mendon officials. That actually we met with the interim town administrator and their treasurer collector. I believe the 622 would be tough in the front. It's about 85 to 90% of the money that they have here. So there may be adjustments to this as we go forward. They have given us a target, so that's the work right now. District funds is pretty much the same as previous years. The only change there is the bond previews no longer in existence because the debt service will be done as June 30th. Actually, I think it's June 1. And that kind of gives us our total budget, which right now is approximately 41,019,08. On the expenditure side, just so everybody understands how it kind of splits out, 76% of the budget goes to personnel. That means salaries, benefits, anything related to keeping employees employed. The rest of it is divvied up. Transportation is a little over 2 million. Out of district tuition is about 2.8 million. Building maintenance is about 2.6 million, and leaves about 2.5 million left for everything else. Everything else means leases on computers, anything related, services for special ed, services, instructional supplies, any of that stuff. That's where that last 6% falls. So, it's important to know that the majority of our money is and people that will make the district work. So it's probably a good. The key drivers, health insurance, we're currently budgeting 9%. We expect that to be a little bit less, but we won't know that for probably another couple of weeks. I know they're working on some quotes right now. Push to retirement is up 10%. Medicare taxes, obviously, are going to go up because payroll goes up. Buildings and grounds, we have some investments there. Most of that is just because the cost of materials is increasing. There's a little bit extra that's put into fields and grounds to try and see if we can get the fields in better shape. We've got some curriculum things. Transportation is a contract. Technology is another number that's gone up. That has to do with renewing the lease on macros. I think you'll hear a lot more about that from Joe in a few minutes. But the bottom line is we started out with requests totaling a little over 43 million. We brought it down to a little under 42 million. Our revenue is 41 million, so we've got about a $900,000 gap. That's if Mendon were able to fund a $622,000 increase, which I do believe is questioned. So I expect that gap to be a little bit larger as we move forward here.
So that's sort of where we stand right now. Questions? Yeah, we do the numbers.
Yeah. Well, a few of us saw a lot of this last week,
Right.
so.
Yeah, some of you have already seen most of this stuff. So
Not
yeah.
everybody.
Yep, absolutely.
But, you know, we're gonna have a struggle to get through this year, or FY 25 based on revenue expenditures. We will make it work, and tell you that we can. It's for the set stage for FY 26. So that's one of the things that we need to start to work. Yeah, it's.
Thank you, Mr.
When is the next time you guys are gonna have the ability to present back?
Well, so we haven't really presented anything to the town up to yet. We just had a lot of communication. We met, like I said, Ian and I met last week with Dave Marsh and Joey Kersey, for the two financial people there. Whether we're gonna do more beyond that, go to FinCom or Select Board, that's probably not gonna happen until we close to the hearing. Nobody said, hey, we want you to come and do this whole presentation. We don't have the presentation ready to go yet. We still got.
Yeah, we usually do that close to.
Yes, I mean, I know.
But right now, it's.
Yeah.
Figuring out.
Upton has put out their preliminary budget. That's the. Mendon is still working on trying to get all the requests together. You know, the message they told us, which is the same as us, is that their requests for funding. See the revenue. I mean, forget about just us, just town in general. You know, towns have a limited amount of money as far as an increase here. But they struggle, it's like we.
Options increase. Is it based on XYZ or is it just this is what we're anticipating?
Yeah, they just basically gave us a chart that based on where our numbers are all falling. Right now. So, you know, there's been this practice of we'll give you half of our. I looked up both towns. Mendon's new money is under 800,000. Upton's is higher tax base. But, you know, I don't think we can expect the town to give us 75–80% of their budget. It's still fund town government as well. So Upton has done some of this work ahead of time. I think Mendon is still trying to get their numbers together and get their requests. Maybe Elena knows more than I do, but maybe not.
No, I think you're on target, yes, so still working on it.
Okay, Elena's a select board member. She regularly, we appreciate.
You really want We're good. Listen out here. What else? Oh, yeah.
I saw some play that comment on anybody here. She did a great job.
I mean, this is, we're good, planning wise, we're in a good spot. Numbers don't look super track, right? We got a bottoms up, we got a tops down. Rest subtract the 3, get a delta, and work out to figure out how to solve it.
We have a few other times we'll be presenting, so we have the early March school committee meetings. And then,
You can mind too.
Mine too, so. Okay.
Thank you, Jenny.
Do I stand up now or I keep staying here? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You guys know where to reach me if you have any questions.
All right, so on to new business. First up, we get the technology budget presentation.
How do you, buddy?
You're doing this last year.
So campus side, you director of technology operations. So just want to go through some numbers and kind of show you where we're at. A little recap from last year in the 24 budget, show you where we've been and where we got. I'll give you a obligatory Bill Gates quote just to get you primed, and then Budget prioritization, just, reminding everybody of the flow, we all know this pretty well. Met with Pauline, Maureen, Jay, went through some of the requests for buildings and then put together a more collaborative budget presentation and move on to next week. Into here, where I say we're going to recap the FY24 budget. Last year, we replaced the iPad fleet in the elementary schools. If you might remember from last year, the 24 budget, we presented kind of as Dave put it, a popsicle headache, I think was the word we used, of how we were going to do it at multi-tiered replacements. We kind of scrapped that plan and went back to just doing the elementary iPads and the 5th grade at Mendon Hill. This provided, those devices didn't have, existing devices did not have a keyboard on them. This provided a opportunity for all of the devices in the elementary to have a keyboard for MCAS, which solved a lot of the headaches we were having in that part. We remarketed the old iPads, the generation ones. We received $88,000 back from that purchase, which goes back to the iPad with all the repairs, other things like chargers, things that we need in the classroom for using the iPads. A lot of those like little expenses that normally we would pull out of the operation. iPad fun. We also upgraded the internet connection at Misco Hill School. That was part of the E-rate program, which I'll talk in another slide about. We went from a 5 gig circuit to a 10 gig circuit. We renewed the contract. The incumbent provider coach was able to offer a better deal on a faster one. The program, it is sponsored by the E-rate program, which is a federal program, is reimbursements. 40% of the total costs reimbursed to us as part of like an entitlement program. I'll talk about that a little later. MacBook lease, we started the discussion about replacing MacBooks for teachers. The current lease ends at the end of this school year, June. The devices we have are 4 years old. They're starting to show their age a little bit. We're having issues with batteries. We're having issues with keyboards. It depends on the wearable items in the device. So your keyboard after 2 or 3 years, if you're banging on it every day at work, it starts to look rough. We're seeing that with teacher machines now. Also batteries, they're just, only charge them sometimes before they start to not charge anymore. So we're trying to get requests from teachers and classrooms for boards and more battery services on the devices. The MacBooks that we have currently are we have a 3-year warranty on them, according to their 4, which means we're paying out pocket for those, which I'll talk about in a slide. Finally, there's a network infrastructure upgrade. We just started a project on that. So this is equipment that runs everything behind the Wi-Fi. So switches specifically, and all of the configuration software we use for that. This allows us to build out 4 individual schools and light up the Wi-Fi from the internet gets to all the devices. That is an existing lease that we've had already. That was a 5-year lease. It just came due. It'll be done at the end of June 30th. Some non-operational funds that we got. So we got the Community Compact IT grant, which is shared with the town of Upton. They go forward with that. We're going to use the money to replace the broadcasting equipment you see in here. Some new cameras, some new sound microphones. We're doing PDC here, and we're doing Little Town Hall at Town Hall at Upton. This project shared with the town side as well. It was a good partnership opportunity that both of our needs. Great opportunity to do some collaborative work. E-rate category 2. I talked a little bit about E-rate. Category 2 is a competitive grant where you get 40% of our devices that are not directly part of category 1 E-rate. So the switches fall into this category 2. So we're using to offset some of the costs associated with buying the switches for this new release. Category 1 is our internet lines. So any of the internet services we have, basically 2 internet connections, one here and one at Stoke Hill. Those connections will be 40% reimbursed by the federal government. That's more of an entitlement. We get that every year. So we're working with that group right now to get the category 1, category 2. We should have, it's probably sent out all letters. It's all filed, it's all slow gears in our government. Finally, Colleen, who's not here tonight, was working on the building capacity for high quality instruction through EdTech. It's an EdTech grant. Provides professional development for sport instruction. Some of our applications we have out there. That was $29,800. Right? Should recognize her and her work. Some areas we think we can get some savings and squeeze some extra dollars out. Repairs and macros. With the new lease coming online, with new devices, we have new warranties. Warranties, Apple is willing in this group in this round of refresh, they're offering us a 4-year zero deductible warranty on the devices. Meaning currently in the previous devices, we were paying $99 every time something. That was just kind of standard Apple care, like we get if you log into the Apple Store buying your stuff. And we had that for 3 years old. As part of the new refresh, they're offering, that was their deal, the sales deal, is 4 years and also 0% finance. So we see some opportunity there to save some money because we've been spending money for the past 4 years dealing with repairs as they came in. Instead of paying $500 or $600 for a destroyed MacBook, you're paying $100. Now we'll pay $0. So this actually mirrors the iPads that we bought the last round. The iPads are on that same Apple Care. Innovative teaching and learning. This is again from Colleen's side of the house. We're dealing with this innovation pathways grant for computer science. So there's an allocation of $75,000 again coming in for this year. Innovation pathways business and finance grant, $25,000, and then we've been looking through and using some of our digital tools, just analyzing what we're using, the analytics behind them to see if we're actually using the way we expect it to. We expect to see some production, so reinvestment in better tools over the course of the year. This one just so you can see some of the numbers, the new Mac release, there is kind of a big jump on that. That is because in the original lease, we only leased about 325 units. We found that we need to add in another 75 units for the paraprofessionals after COVID. We recall this 4-year lease, so we started this in 2020, which was kind of an interesting time. And we found that the devices they had in their hands just weren't working for them. So we're purchasing another 75. This combines the two sets of devices and puts them all in the same lease. So going forward, there won't be any major jumps in that. The network infrastructure lease, same deal. We bid this out originally 5 years ago. The equipment prices were much different back then, or a lot cheaper. We also got some really good deals back then. Going forward on this one, price of equipment is up considerably. We also added a lot more equipment over the 5 years. Different areas, reconfigured situations in all 4 buildings. So this just, again, puts everything on a new lease, so it's all clean. We expect that the interest rate on that is a little bit higher now, because higher rates all around. So that's the only two like real big drivers there. Wi-Fi lease is 0, still $65,000 for year 3 of 5. So that was fixed cost. I just threw that in there just to kind of remind everybody. Once we get a bump, it just kind of stays 0 after that. There's some savings where Colleen kind of gave you some numbers there based on the digital tools we're using. The 35,730, that's what we've so far saved just by going through and removing stuff that we did not use or underutilizing, I guess, just reconfiguring some of those. Finally, there's $200,000. If you recall from the 24 presentation, we did the elementary iPads. This $200,000 is to do the other half of the fleet and get everything on recurrence. So this, once it's in, we don't back and say, hey, we need another set of iPads again. Trying to keep those bumps minimal going forward. Now that we have everything on the lease, instead of buying a capital outlay every time. And some areas that Colleen kind of threw in here. So we're hoping to see some return on our investments from the grant funded items we talked about. It also gives us some on-demand access for teachers and students We're looking at extending the learning opportunities for staff and students via our multiple digital platforms. So things like Google Classroom, global online, some of those programs. Just making sure that we have good infrastructure to support these things. Things like Project Lead the Way, which we've been doing for a few years now. These are all grant funded stuff. We had a hardware upgrade in the PVC here for the Community Compact IT grant that's coming through. We joined the Student Data Privacy Consortium, which is a group that audits our software agreements. They make sure that we're in compliance with state regulations on student privacy. It's an important thing to have, just a lot of companies just kind of putting together products, putting them out there. They are vetted by this group, belong to this consortium. So anybody that they give their blessing to, they've gone through their vetting process. And just every year as we do a lot of, tech-related PD, just bring funded. So, I'd like to say that, we have pretty up-to-date equipment. Happy with where we are on our stuff. It's definitely a strength of ours. Some areas that I think we could still grow, definitely our staffing in tech offices. We're really lean. We find ourselves basically Sam and Chris, and there's really not a lot at Felipe. There's really basically 2.5 techs. Chris is in town half the time. So 4 buildings, 2.5 techs. Liz working all of the anything power school and grade related, all the state reporting, all. This is all. Colleen and I also just trying to jockey all the administrative side of things. It's just we could use a little more help for kind of drowning in certain areas. The time to repair is kind of long, we're finding, just as a result of that, because we're not always. You don't catch us first thing in the morning when we're there. You might not see us again until tomorrow. Things are just kind of stacking up, sometimes a day or two longer than I'd like it to. I don't know if the students have any comments on that. I mean, you guys see us now best. So the other thing, just going, continuing to reinvest in our innovation center and innovative learning areas that we're working on district-wide. I think that's an important thing. Replacement of projectors. A lot of the district projectors are aging. A lot of them are 10 years or older. We managed to keep them going, still available, and a lot of the equipment is getting kind of rough. We're looking at doing some replacements there. Same with smart boards. Both are at least 7 years old, if not more. Some of the ones in the elementary school are there from the original, the end of the projects. So 2000. So finally there, just for the kind of timeline, right now we're working on the Macs and iPads for 25. That's kind of our big thing. We have the network upgrade happening now. That will be coming through the new internet line. This building will be bid out right now. It should have an answer to that in May to replace the existing line that will age out of contract at the end. And then projectors and smart board replacements, like I said, these are something we need to address. Jay and I are looking at some non-operational funding options for that. We'll hopefully have some updates for you coming soon. And then finally, the last thing I threw in was just about, because we're doing the network upgrade, the wired network upgrade, I threw in the wiring in this building is going on 30 years old. It's 25-ish, 26-ish years old. But the type of wire that's in here is 30-ish years old. It's old technology. It'll work, but we're running into issues that you find in older buildings now where wires are, the mouse shoot through it or rearrange the room or something happened, and we run new stuff. So we're finding ourselves running new wires, but overall a more structured project needs to happen. Specifically for here, the elementary schools, believe it or not, we go back to 2004. So we're about 20 years old. And the newer technologies for networking, they're looking for newer, more up-to-date cable. We did do Misco Hill, if you recall, about 6, 7 years ago. That we did the original Wi-Fi install. So that building actually is completely. So, we should keep it. See if we got Paul. Look for a win here. So that wraps up the things. I'm happy to take any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. A lot of conversation.
Question just probably.
Sure.
Both repairs, so with the warranty, do you have a sense of like what you were spending, what you're spending on repair now, to MacBooks and even for the iPad and what you've seen?
That's to be determined. I think on the iPad side, we've definitely seen any savings. It's hard to tell because we changed out the iPads fast enough. I think we didn't see how bad that could have gone. I know towards the end, students probably will give you some stories, you know, the equipment just batteries dying. A lot of stuff is just wear and tear, you know, they get scratched, they get dropped, but you know, cases are falling off. So those are the kinds of expenses that we were racking up. If we can get money for them in trade-in early while they're still in reasonably good shape, that money offsets a lot of those repairs going forward. That's what we've survived in this program. So I'm thinking, you know, conservatively, $10,000 or $15,000 kind of thing, not a ton of money, but it's worth it, especially if it's going to make for what I said about staff, and we're kind of lean on staff, being able to turn these devices around quickly, get them down, get them fixed, get them back out. It saves time on my staff side, which is good for us.
So before were we buying the iPads and never leasing?
Correct, yes, a lot of them were problem non-operational ones, so grants.
Grants before it was never.
But also that account with 88,000 is going to dry up at some point.
Right, we're using it
No
now
lease down.
to offset.
And just out of curiosity, I know you're already down this one, but why MacBooks first?
We did look at all of them when we gone down that road, just retooling everything from being in Mac zone for so long, the changing over all the software packages, changing over all the devices, retraining the staff, retuning the network, you know, to run PC's first Mac. Like there's a lot of Apple specific tuning we do to this.
You know, the devices tend to work better together, not that I together. TV, so it's just educationally supported the work that we did, so it kind of built off of one another.
We do have an investment now in the classroom too. So I mean, like, you know, just there's a lot of little pieces that all dovetail. Pull out the main device out of it, we're gonna be in kind of trouble, I think, a little bit. There'll be some collateral.
They're not great.
It's a good question, but it definitely from an education standpoint, teachers, the training, they kind of do a lot. Once you're in, you're kind of in. I mean, not that you don't have to make a good change, but that's, yeah, you know, so.
I didn't put-
When you have, you know, 300 staff members trained in certain areas. That's a case.
I didn't put it in slides, but the MacBooks will also seek to remarket as well, so I'm sure there'll be some money back from that as well. We'll discuss it. So
And those will also be leasing instead of.
yes.
Do you ever think about in high school about going to something other than iPads for students? So if we looked at Chromebooks or Apple notebooks.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at it. Really the cost per device on Chromebook versus the iPad is the same. The iPad's $299 with the case and everything else. $329 good Chromebooks around $350, $400 mark anyway.
Yeah.
You know, Apple's, again, we have all the infrastructure in there for Apple already. The Apple TV in Classroom, Apple Classroom, the app. I don't know, I think we made that investment already. Kind of pulling one, like I say, pull one piece out of it. Now you have a staff member with MacBook, student Chromebook. It's just kind of.
Yeah, I just, we're thinking for work processing, writing documents, calling, walking, great.
Yeah,
It's only so far you can get on an iPad doing that stuff.
Yeah, so what you tend to see, yeah, students can bring in devices too. So we kind of see a a mix of classroom, we do have labs, so if there's specific type of work that you need to do in the labs, they have the ability to do that, but I see kind of that mixed. Using various, I don't know if you guys wanna respond at all, like how you're impacted by using like that or word processing standpoint. Did it impact you or have you been using it so long?
I honestly think I've been using it for so long,
Yeah.
but I do like going to the laboratory in the school. We go there for a lot of my classes and when I have English classes, like I'm in Satire right now, and I think teacher bumped out an entire month for us to use the laboratory, and I like the big computer, but I also like the convenience of the small iPad, and I don't think I've changed it.
I remember similar, where what we grown up with and how we basically thought for each year of school, so it can be like a big jump, there have to be like some extra time to get used to it, some kind of big change like that.
About the stuff in areas like, software. Is that,
Yeah,
that is not convenient.
no,
We
we
do
have
have
in the
staff.
labs, yeah, we have.
So we're on tops for your science group. As part of that grant. And we have a PC lab here still. The elementary schools also are PC labs. So there's definitely Windows equipment still floating around here. There's nothing, because our infrastructure still active directory Windows, like backend, standard backend, that stuff. So,
One more question, sorry. So when I saw the digital savings line, and I know we have like some trial period, some software like Full Architect where we use, can we expect some cost at some point for that software, and how much are we looking at for various different things that we're trying to do?
So these savings are stuff are just said.
Right, but
I don't know necessarily where we're going with new stuff.
Some of it's gonna be a swap, so let's say. But, it gets there somehow, and let's say you have Thrively as an example that we use for some years, add it all up, it's. Was it school, but it's, office and amount is the same. And, not quite worried about, we have a few years. And sometimes what we've done for some of them too, they do actually qualify for some grants, and we can cut back because we'll apply like the title to the grant and cover like a software. I did that for a while. So we try to balance that out by reducing some of this. So that's part of part. And with the curriculum audit that child and copy, we have a pretty soft list.
Sure. Thanks.
Tab here is. Next up, we've got Jen, our student support services budget resolution.
The exciting one. Right. So this is my quote that we're starting off with. The measure of society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. This is a little bit in line too, for those of you who are fortunate to attend an MASC training on budgeting and talking about prioritizing. So your budget speaks to what your district prioritizes. So this was kind of a set for that. So this is the process similar to last year. We look at department level requests. A big part of our budget is really focused on that second one. So we're looking at prioritizing and examining data to align with the needs of our students. As you all know, that changes every year. So it's really up to us to look and project and see where we're going to need some additional supports. And where we've had a higher population in the past, it might not be that in the coming years. So that's a really big piece of how we formulate our budget. I know I talked about last year, that shift going from your traditional specific learning disabilities in reading, writing, and math to more social emotional needs, mental health. So that's kind of what you'll see in this budget proposal as well.
And then the last one is here today. So just to recap the things that we have done over the course of the last 4 years, we've been able to add on staff like around school psychologists, BCBAs. Last year, we were fortunate to have the approval of 2 of the recommendations for hires last year. So we do have a therapeutic classroom that we function at the elementary level, which is a hybrid model. So for those of you that are not familiar, the students are placed in their grade level homerooms and they're in a grade level classroom with their peers. But we have a clinician and we have a special education teacher who support about 7 or 8 students with therapeutic needs and academic needs. So they do check-ins, they do some push-in services into the classroom. So at the beginning of the year, we really focused on looking at those students and their needs. So our special education teacher and our clinician went into classrooms, they did observations, they worked with the teachers. We found trigger areas. So some kids, math morning was not a fan favorite. So we identified, nothing wrong with math, but that just seemed to be, but we identified where those areas were. So what we were able to do is put some services in place for check-ins, but then also push some of our staff into the classroom during math morning to help those students understand the expectation, use some of their strategies, and be able to stay in the classroom and engage with the lesson factors. So that's the model that we have at the elementary school that we see some great gains on. Again, there's about 7 or 8 students that are utilizing that. This is our first year, so we're a work in progress. We did go out to Mansfield a couple weeks ago to look at their programming. They've had therapeutic classrooms in place for about 9 years now. So they were gracious to invite us over. The team came back with some additional ideas, so we'll be meeting the next couple of weeks to kind of just hear what they had to say, see what kind of changes we need to make to kind of continue that growth pattern for that class. And then the bridge services, that was a couple years ago. High school was first, and then we brought middle school was first, then we brought into the high school. Skill-based classes was last year. We do consult with this technology consultant, so that's someone who will come in and work with students and staff. With our students who may have special needs around using a device. So that's worked out really well. Best Buddies launched last year. That's something that we're really proud of. I think they were here and presented to the middle school chapter and the high school chapter in full force this year. So that's something that we're proud of. And then our expansion of our community partners. So looking at our high school students who go out to the community for a big portion of their day and looking how we can build more community partners, bring the kids into their high interest areas. Right now, I think we have 7 partners in the community that we work with. And our latest student just started the CVS apprentice training program, which is exciting. So that's a new opportunity for us to kind of break into, and we're excited for that opportunity. Any questions on that? Here's fun stuff, the numbers. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of where we are in special ed. So 240 and 262 are entitlement grants that happen every year. This is this year's allocation amount, 578, 359 was our 240, and then the 262, which is our early ed, which is our pre-K programming, is at 22,132. I will say that if you see the little note at the bottom, we have not used our FY23, so we are in a place where we're able to carry over these 240 grants because Jay and I have worked collectively to make sure that we're kind of maintaining our funds because we just don't know what's going to happen. So in special ed, it's very volatile. We could have needs, we could have movements. There's a lot of things that we can't always anticipate. We don't have the luxury of just looking at enrollment numbers and projecting year to year because the needs change. So this has been something that we work on. So that grant is this year's entitlement, which will most likely be applied to next year's budget. Pre-K is a little bit different. We do use that to provide support staff with our pre-K program. And then this year, there's also, I know I spoke about it a little last year, if you remember, the new IEP that's rolling out in September. So that's been a 2-year work in progress with DESE. This year, we're engaging in a lot of training with Alan, who's been, a leader in the special ed world for a long time now. So he's been coming into the district and providing some PD for our teachers around that new IEP. So that is something that's going to start with us in the fall. The state just came out with grants, which is this 274 special grant for targeted program improvements. So that is what that's for. It's money to use towards that transition to the new IEP that we're going to roll out in September. Any questions on grants? Great.
efficiencies. It's really, that's a challenging one for us, but we do our best. So one of the things that we've worked to, and this has also been going on for the last couple of years, is bringing in our contracted services to full-time positions. There's a lot of benefit to having people full staff. It gives us the opportunity to do a lot of observational time in the classrooms, a better approach to services. So it's not your traditional model of somebody coming in, doing a service and then leaving the district. They're more part of our community. So that has been helpful. Last year, we were able to kind of reallocate, so not adding any additional costs, but looking at reallocating. So we were able to bring a couple of positions in-house and reduce our contracted services line. So that's what you see there, 2 SLPAs who assist our speech and language pathologists at the elementary level, and then a PTA who assists the district-wide physical therapists. And then the second one is we continue to work on building capacity. Again, this has been an ongoing thing for the last couple of years about training staff members so that we can do the work that we have to self-help. So that's something we've been working on in our reading rounds, in our coach reading across PT and OT. So that's something that we're going to continue to work on. Questions? Yeah. That's great. This is everyone's favorite slide. So I used the same slide last year. All I did was add in the new updated information. So you'll see FY24 is to date. So that was as of the presentation. I think one of the important things to look at, and I think we talked about this last year too, and even though our number of students out of district has drastically decreased, our costs haven't, right? So that's where I talked to you about, hey, how do we not incur additional costs? Because once a student is out of district, I don't control tuition and I don't control transportation. Those are set by, different people. So we're really kind of stuck once we have a student out of district. We can't control the cost of the transportation. So what our goal has been, and it's really just a better environment for kids, is to provide them services in district. So we've been able to expand our programming and meet the needs of our students in a much more efficient and effective way. And that has resulted in the number of students being out of district to get what they need a little bit lower. But you'll see that if you look at the cost, you don't see any savings, right? Because of the way that the rates and tuition and transportation are set up, it just doesn't equal. So also probably remember I talked about last year, the 14% that the state gave every single tuition hike, which was so nice of them. So they all went about 14% minimum. Some of them got a little bit more if they had petitioned the state for a higher increase. So when I looked at that, that was about $350,000 just in tuition increases that we would have been subjected to, but we were able to minimize that because of what we had put in place prior. So you didn't really see that on your end as a budget shortage. So that's why if you look, like I said, you'll see FY22 pretty much at the same as FY23, even though we had a decrease in those numbers. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, what's interesting, put your map in the 20, fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 24. Your costs has gone up more than 100%.
24 is only year to date.
For sure.
What do you mean?
So in fiscal year 20,
Yep,
you have 35 students.
Yep.
At 3.4 million, so it's
Yep.
100,000 per student.
Yep.
And if you go to fiscal year 24, I understand it's in you have 13 students at over 2.8 million. That's over 200,000 students. So your cost is more, it's double per student. I'm kind of backing up what you said.
oh, this is the rates,
Because of the rate,
Right.
but it's gone up 100%.
right?
But I mean, to Jen's point, where do you think that budget's gonna end up?
Probably about in line.
Wow.
That's just, yes, yeah, 300,000%.
So if you look, so Jay just sent me an email from the business manager group. And if you look at historically the out of district rates, they were getting like anywhere from about 1.5% to 2.5% annual increases for the past like probably 10 years. And then last year was 14. So that was a huge increase. For some of our more expensive out of district programs, that was like $60,000, right? So that is a lot of overture to absorb in 1 year.
So did that whole recommended increase for basically, by the state to all?
It wasn't recommended, they all, yeah, I mean, would, right?
The next one is like 4%. Next
Yeah,
so that.
So, I mean, it's really a mitigation game as far as we're talking with the budget. And I know that's never what you want to kind of hear, right? But it's a really hard thing to project because there's so many variables. And even the 4%, that's standard across the board. But if I have any programs that are going for an additional increase, they pretty much get it, right? There's a group that can, you can go in and you can testify and do all that work. I always tell Jay when my schedule frees up, that's when we start doing. But if you put in if you're getting the 4 and you're putting in for another 3 or 4, you're looking at a 7% on top of the 14. So that is a huge increase over 2 years.
What was the cost of the drop from 20 to
20 to 24.
drop the number of students?
Programming, age out. We haven't had too many going out of district. We've been able to put some programming in place to meet the needs of our students in district. That's the big piece of it.
Do you think that's the quality of our programming? That's actually.
Yeah, I do think, well, an option, right?
Yep.
So we're not a one shop anymore. We have some options. We've been very creative in our solutions. We've had some programs that have really kind of functioned in isolation. Broken down some of those walls. And we talk about it as services and supports to meet the student's needs and not a student in this program, right? So that language has really changed because now, there may be some opportunities for a certain teacher to provide some services that they weren't able to before because we were using program labels. So that has really gone away, and we just talk about, hey, you're accessing supports and services through this program, but that's one component of your day, and then you still are out accessing your general ed services with you. So it's just a mindset shift that we've had over the last couple of years since then. It worked out well for students. And then the next slide, Chris, is next year. So this was on last year's recommendations too. So this is the one I didn't get. So here I am again. So this is the same model, proposing it at the middle school. So fortunately, we have an existing clinician at the middle school, so that wouldn't need to be a new hire. So we're just looking at that special education teacher to work with the clinician to provide that services. So I know that one of the questions was always like, how many students, right? So how do we quantify spending $85,000 when we're in a really tight budget? So currently, just to give you an idea, I have 3 students that are on extended evaluation period. So what that is they're out at an out-of-district placement for 8 weeks to collect data to see how we can best meet their needs because we're unable to meet their needs currently at the middle school. So those 3 are accessing supports. We'll have meetings. We'll determine if we can then bring them back and meet their needs, or we may not need to. Projected for next year, I have 2 to 3 elementary students who are 4th graders who would be moving up to MISCO that have some elevated needs that we would have to keep an eye on. I'm not saying definitely, but would benefit from a therapeutic hybrid model. And then currently at the middle school, we have another 3 or 4 students who we are able to support, but it's an ebb and flow. So at that point, we have to look at, during some of those times, do we have the supports necessary for them to continue to access, or do we not? So we've been able to manage that. So I would say again, like 2 or 3 at the elementary, and then the 3 or 4 at the middle school currently. None are projected to move up to the high school next year. So that's why the focus has really been on the middle school. Last year, we picked the elementary to hopefully build skills early. So that we're building these skills early on, and they're able to learn those skills, generalize those skills, and have less of an impact when they go into the middle school. So that was our thought behind going elementary instead of middle school. Any questions on the outside? Financial impact. So again, another question you guys had last year was about what would be the financial impact if you don't fund the position that I asked for. So this is again a guesstimate, right? Nothing's, and the what you see right now, the cost currently are those 3 extended evaluations. So we're not just looking at tuition, we're looking at transportation. Transportation can be costly as well. So right now, with those 3 students doing an 8-week program elsewhere, it's about $95,000. And then the potential cost. So last year I used a lower rate for the per pupil, like a guesstimate. I went up a little bit on that because I think I used something thousand. It wasn't really representative of what I would have to pay for an out of district and transportation. So I upped that to about 102, and I used 4 students just as a conservative number to give you an idea.
So I've I have no idea what's going on, circuit breaker, but where is that title?
That plays into it too. So we get money from circuit breaker that then gets applied to the next years. So it's a year behind like transportation. And
That's cost plus some rate, what cost above. What is the rate?
it's over.
It's around 50 right now. It's 4 times your per pupil expenditure. So whatever they say our per pupil expenditure is multiplied by 4, we pay that cost. Then they reimburse at around 75% of that.
And then last one is just future needs. So this is kind of where we were last year too. We're always looking at expanding our opportunities for early learners. Our pre-K program is in great shape this year, thanks to adding that second teacher last year. So that's been helpful. We're always looking to expand our community-based opportunities. Again, we lost a handful of those during COVID. And we haven't been able to gain back some of those placements. We added a couple of new ones, but we're always looking for community partners. So if anyone out there has a business or works for a business that would love to engage with us, we'd love to have that conversation. And then the last one we've been working on last year too, I've been working with the counselors. I think I spoke about this last year. And we're working on developing district-wide comprehensive behavioral and mental health service plan. So we've been working with John Crawford, who's been great, doing a ton of work with us. And we meet with him this week to review our self-assessment data. So that is where we had done a couple of surveys. We used SHAPE, which is a statewide product for assessment. He's going to come out with us and kind of go through it all. And then we'll be setting up an advisory. So let's have you to look at the information and put in a couple of actionable steps that we want to work on towards the end of the year. When is
that?
the advisory? I would say I'm going to post for that probably right as I said with the break. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we are. Any questions?
It's difficult and frustrating to see all of the progress with the decreased number of students and the savings you would expect, but then Jay comes up and says, there's still an increase.
Yeah, Jay's no fun. Yeah. Yeah.
But Jim, I think the way you gotta look at it is that split your 24 number, prorated up to 30.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like,
There's your dollar, right? Yeah.
you want to see all of that savings, but there's none observed, right? You see the progress. It's
Cost avoidance.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus savings.
and a lot of.
I think we did, the year we did each budget presentation as a meeting with each department, was for the ballpark. I think we came up with like 25% of our budget discussion. Cross cut through all of the very.
Yeah, we're expensive. But we're working.
So what do you think the district-wide comprehensive plan, what do you think would be outcome?
Yeah, so what we're looking at there is proactive, right? So everything that we've been kind of working on for the last 4 years, proactive. So for example, we had Riverside come out today and talk to us about how can we proactively put things in place to minimize negative outcomes for students, right? There's great resources out there when everyone's already in crisis and triage, but how can we put things in place to be proactive? So part of that has been our parent communication. We've brought in presenters around behavioral counseling, all that stuff. So the plan is really to identify where our strengths are, what we can build on, and then where are some gaps in those services. Because that is where, he came out last year and did some stuff around goals for us, but your goals are up here, right? So those are your students who already need specially designed instruction to be able to regulate and access your curriculum. So how do we get that manageable? We have to start here. So that's what we're hoping at, identifying what we do well, what we can build off of, and where are there some gaps that we can then put some additional supports and services in place to not have gaps.
Are you building the students as well as current?
Part of what is here in interventions, yeah, so we're looking at what exists, and then what we can do. We do a lot, but we don't necessarily do a lot consistently, and we don't do a lot consistently across all 4 buildings.
Sure, the systems need to be.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wondering if that's the direction.
It is, regular screening, right? So, and a little bit more, like last year we were, it was good because we got to use some tools, some real, like the GAP-7. So for those of you who don't know, it's a quick 7-question, set of questions that's about anxiety, right? So even that is a piece of data that we don't consistently use, that can be really helpful, and it can track where students are, and we see patterns and how we can help them with those things to minimize those feelings of anxiety before they get to a point that we're at over crisis. So last year he was great. John came in and did a whole bunch of things about creating a toolbox for us, and the counselors have been kind of playing with that and utilizing that. And then this next step is to figure out district-wide, what do we do well? Where can we fill some gaps and what can we do better? And then that consistency, so it doesn't look different. So when we do have, I know transition's been a big topic here. So when we're transitioning students from elementary to middle and middle to high school, there's continuity in what they can expect as far as supports services and family engagement. For the budget, which is a lot of us screening students. Yes.
Looking at the out of district cost, what's the difference between the private school line and total tuition cost? Out of curiosity, I'm just curious.
It's a great question.
Falls in the private schools.
So private, so it depends on the school. So we have public day schools. So we have some students that attend, in a private school, and they might have a program that we don't have, so we may send them to that. Private is going to be, they're private, so they're higher tuition, to be honest, for private schools. And then our collaboratives are our local collaboratives. It's just, I tend to use collaboratives a lot, to be honest. I don't place in the other ones for various reasons. They're local. So a big piece of when we're having these conversations is how can students still be engaged in their community? They can't if they're traveling an hour and a half to their placement. So how can I put them in a place close by that meets their needs, but they can still access after school? So we have some students that are out of district for schooling, but they participate on our football team. They participate, in our unified sports. So that is a really important piece of having those conversations about where those programs are going to be, because we want to have kids engaged, right? A piece of that too is when they're engaged in our community and their skills are at a point that they can transition back, they feel comfortable transitioning back because they've been part of sports or part of the play or part of, anything. So that's a big piece of keeping that connected to the community. Most of your privates are not local and they're an hour on a bus, which is terrible way to start your day. And then on top of that, it really limits your ability to kind of connect back to the community. Thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate it. All right, next up is the county.
We're bringing a first review of the 2024-2025 school calendar for next year. This has taken a few months to kind of work through and get feedback and then go back and change it and get more feedback and go back and change it all the way up to today. What I'd like to do is just highlight a couple of talking points. And if at the end you feel like you're comfortable voting on it tonight, then we can go forward and do that. If you want more time or didn't have time to look at it, do it the next meeting, but typically we do it in February, the latest, and we're gonna let families know for next year. We received some feedback from the Teachers Association to try to go back to having our PD days happen Fridays. We tried having it on different days this past year, and some of the feedback was if we have it at that having it, if you have it consistently on a day and the week, then that would be helpful for families to be able to like leading to the week. So you'll see that change from this current year to next year. Just to know, because of the elections, that deadline and a misgo for elections, and so that really helps us out as well. For continuity over the winter break, we added a vacation day on that Monday after December break. And typically have kind of like a half day before break, and that would be strange to come back and have like a half day. And that weeks we ended up adding that day in like most other districts did as well. Let's see. This past year or so, we had a half day. In December, we skipped December. Time here is we'd have of learning between that December, right? We had typically held the third full PD day in March, but we are going to try having it in September and have the 3 days up front. So we have, because you have the November date and we'd have September 20th, and then we have the one right before the start. And to be able to launch for any of the work or PD that we're doing. It's fine to have it in March. We have it up. We're going to use the vertical work of this coming PD day. However, we wanted to give it a try. We received some feedback that teachers would like to have more time in order to get planning at the beginning of the year. I think it could help us out too. So we're going to give it a try this year. At least that's our recommendations to approve it. We've had numerous conversations on the best days for the half-day parent-teacher conferences. There is no one great answer in November. The one option we were looking at was the November 12th and 13th. And we also received feedback from a few groups of perhaps trying to. So there are pros and cons. If you have the 12th and 13th, and I don't have it, I think it's a big number. You know, you are having more frequent short weeks there. But the November 11th, so those that, you know, like that, but others, it brings up their teaching. So that's where the recommendations for 2016 is maybe do it that way. On the downside, the feedback on the downside of that is we have a big push from federally and also statewide and locally on reducing public absenteeism and absenteeism. And any time that you group any half days along with other holidays, then that's a great time sometimes for families to take that break. I think it could happen either time. It would be more likely to happen on that Thanksgiving week. So that is the downside of that is a concern that's been brought up. It might happen on the weekend too. So right now I'm putting for the 25th, 26th in the calendar that, but we really want it also from parent perspectives yourself into like what you think. We certainly looked at a lot of even splitting it up on a Friday and a Monday and all different ways. Nothing was really great. I think those were the key points. There was a suggestion to maybe one year we tried having the half day for the February vacation. Pros and cons to that. It might be helpful for families, not great for break. So this past year we did up a bit, which seemed to be a good timing. This past year, so keep it on that day. So I think the 14th or better than the 7th. I think those are the key elements. Looking for your thoughts. I put action because I didn't know it's nice to take the action too.
Half-day and extra off.
Yeah, because that's in the contract to have that, so it has to happen. So if you could have it on a Monday, but that doesn't make sense. So that's what we have. That thing. There really isn't a great scenario.
Or-
Otherwise, I'd put like, here's the best scenario in front of you. Yeah.
There's a nice difference. Like the half days are so disruptive to them. So I think in some ways, just grouping it all and maybe, I don't know if that's better, but certainly the half day around the other, maybe earlier.
Savings in 12.
I think so, particularly, I guess, at the younger grades. More disruptive. And if you do put it up against a weekend sometimes, I mean, I guess we always imagine that. You know, actually. Then being in the middle of the week. I think that was part of the breaking up.
What do we do this year? I'm looking at this year's. Yeah.
Here, right after. First, second.
And by the contract, it has to be in November. And we typically have, and obviously we have a lot of, the other holidays. The advantage, the advantage of, one advantage of putting it, I guess, in that week when I look at it is, you have that full week, 4 days, and 3 days. Yes, that makes some contribution.
Six and seven was.
I think then that means that we'll take. Can't remember the reason why, but I know that, I think that was.
Yeah, Monday.
Because then you come in for one and then you have it off again.
Yeah.
We have to have. On that day.
I guess you only have to, do they have to be back? Heritage provinces.
There's nothing that says that they have to in that contract. It always has been. And there is a sense of like preparation, particularly at the younger grades, for because every elementary, conference takes place, right?
Right.
That's fewer, but so then it's preparing for that time. We were looking at whether or not you could do separate times, but no one came forward, but hey, how about this one that they thought was pretty cool. But in answer to your question, you could split it.
Make a motion to approve calendar for.
Also. There's a good discussion. Has this been before,
No, it's we always share the process and leadership team. Come back and we try to work through some. That's
They asked that, I remember. Back in- Not that I to a lot of sentiments by. This groups, but.
What was the feedback?
Yeah, I think it was not, I think it was more. remember reading it. Discuss this. There were, I remember there were options to choose from. But.
It's,
I mean, one of the points that I don't know if they stressed really was that, during talking with teachers, I think this schedule would be in their favor. This week. Steps to make sure that meetings are on Friday. Right, so you're gonna get, I
And
think,
their recommendation was Thanksgiving break, it was, from the administrative side, it might increase the absenteeism. So the process.
So everything-
But,
everything is gonna have trade-offs. Everything's gonna, when you make a change, it's gonna make a negative impact on some. So I think the reason why I made the motion is because I think this is a good try at trying to come up with something different. We can learn from our mistakes if it goes wrong. I think it's a good try.
the other thing I can add is, sometimes I try to have us do this, we have a couple of readings of it, which allows, so it is posted on the agenda. Probably posted, I put actions, so just, like communication wise in an open meeting. So if people who pay attention are able to say, hey, I have something to say, or I want to watch that. Just like with some policies, if you think we have a lot of input, then you might have 2 readings of it. Sometimes we've had 2 readings of this. We're a little late in getting feedback on this, and we're, about a month behind. I think it's good to get the dates out if we can. But if you, as a committee, felt like, hey, maybe we just do a first reading right now. I know there's a motion on the floor, but you could choose to do that, and then that gives people an opportunity to give feedback for the next meeting. That's all they so choose. So that's a way that you can do when you have big decisions.
If anybody wants to read second reading, I probably. So.
But this has already been through leadership team. There's been some educator feedback. So I think one of the first concerns that we heard here was the continuity of learning. So if that is not a large enough concern for the leadership team and the teachers, then I think that's meaningful for them too. I feel like whenever we put a bunch of half days in a row, which happens with conferences every year, that puts stress on families because of childcare and things like that. But it's not unexpected because it does happen every year. So I don't know. In a lot of ways, I look at that and think, well, it's a little bit easier to plan if it's all happening in 1 week. So I'm happy with your motion, Sean. I'm going to speak about right now too. I don't know that I feel the need for a second reading.
All right, got a motion, I second it, we had discussion, you want to vote? All in favor of approving the 24-25 calendar as proposed? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Okay. The MSBA statement of interest intent on the Mendon.
As a result of our capital planning that I mentioned before, our highest priority item is for capital. High school groups. In order for us, Jay has been doing a great job working on the statement of interest, starting the application. In order for us to be able to submit the application to MSBA, and this is under the accelerator program or ART program, and the deadline is March 1st. We have to have a vote, some approval, giving me, the superintendent, permission to hit submit on that form. In order to do that, I recommend, just so we have it, we have a written document that Eric would sign if he's voting yes, and what's on that written document is the verbiage that we say is required. So I would just recommend someone reading what's in red.
It's just bylaws.
What?
Bylaws.
Bylaws, that's why I was typo.
Yes.
You found it, good job.
Sean, since you, go ahead. Wrap up the reading for us.
Thanks.
So I'll read it. Resolved, having convened an open meeting on February 12th, 2024, prior to the statement of information.
That's the interest.
Interest submission closing date, the Mendon-Upton Regional School Committee of Mendon and Upton, Massachusetts, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated February 24th, Nipmuc Regional High School, 90 Pleasant Street, Upton, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future priority by replacement, renovation or modernization of school facility systems, such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilating systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy related costs in the school facility. This is required because the roof costs of a numbering EPDM roof system, approximately 5,000 square feet, an asphalt shingle roof system, approximately 61,600 square feet. And that's the end of the parenthetical. And is 28 years old and has significant leakage issues across the building and impacting safety and learning. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority is in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant or any other further or funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Mendon-Upton Regional School District to filling an application for funding of the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Motion and vote needed for this submission. Yeah. All we need to do is like put from here on.
All right.
Just cut and paste.
All right, any more discussion? So, all in favor?
Aye.
I will sign away.
That's even one
Sean,
of
that's
the
amazing.
budget report.
Tuesday. Are we good? Sean, update on the budget committee? Actually,
Said we've covered everything. Next meeting, March 7th, at our last meeting, February 7th. We basically went through exactly what you saw today, other than a few updates. So, yeah, March 7th, the next date.
wonderful. Thank you. Policy update.
Oh, I should say also that the budget web page is very useful to reference. That's, I don't think that really is. But the web page is very good. Sorry.
No, I got Vicky, yes. Sean, one more sentence.
So policy, somebody said prior to this meeting. Wellness policies, which is stated, and we continue for review. You can budget. We looked at H, which is public comment meeting. So we updated that, we saw the guidance, which updated their policy for so that is there. You, so you can see what we changed. Some of their policies. There aren't really any. Updating them.
Questions from Vicky? Make a motion to approve this.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Becky, on the first point here, at the start of the regular school board meeting, sign for an opportunity to speak. How do we plan to facilitate that?
Great question. And we are gonna, yeah, exactly, like we have been the. Yeah, generally expanding.
That's fine. I didn't want.
We talked about that. But we decided to keep it in because we had to hand raising opportunity. But that was the new language that they had.
I move that we approve policy BDPH.
One discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. And you get to go again.
So the negotiation. For the 4 dates. November 7th, January 10th, 24th. Last week. January 7th, so next 2 meetings are 9th and March 4th.
Carrie, superintendent dollars.
Sure, I think Maureen already did this for me, but we met as a subcommittee on the 29th to discuss mid-year progress goals and results of that.
Full. I don't have any other matters that come up in the last 48 hours. On the agenda. It's there. We've got a few more budget presentations to wrap up. SEL data review and student opportunity. Meetings. So with that said, motion for executive session, motion to enter an executive session according to section 3 to discuss strategy with respect to bargaining. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on bargaining position of the public body shares. We will return to the open session only for the purpose of adjourning the meeting. A roll call vote is.
Jim Corky, aye.
Shawna Guzman, Eric Brown, aye.
Carrie Lawrence,
Aye. We're adjourned to a second session.